To get started, I will be using 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of chicken breast. Now today I only had around 1 pound of chicken breast in my refrigerator, so what I did was cut it into 4 pieces, but you do want to use around 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds. Next, I'm going to season my chicken. I'm using a rub that I made, and that basically consists of 1 teaspoon of lemon pepper, a 1/2 teaspoon of granulated garlic powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of granulated onion powder, and around 1/4 teaspoon to a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. You can salt to taste. I'm going to liberally season it on both sides. Okay, so now I'm going to cook my chicken. Here I have a preheated cast iron skillet, and to that I will be adding a couple tablespoons of oil. I am using avocado oil. You can use any vegetable oil of your choice. Next, I will be adding 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. To sear these chicken breasts, I am using somewhere between a medium-high to high heat. It is not all the way high, but I do want the pan nice and hot to get a good sear and cook these chicken breasts before they dry out. I am going to be cooking my chicken breasts for around 3 to 3.5 minutes on each side. Now, the cook time will vary depending how thick or thin your chicken breast is cut or pounded out. So if you're using a thick chicken breast, it's obviously going to take longer to cook. So be sure to adjust your cook time according to the thickness of your chicken breast. Okay, so it has been 3 minutes, so now I'm just going to flip it and continue cooking for the same amount of time on the other side. I'd like to add another variable that might change your cook time, or at least for the internal temperature to reach 165, is that if you are working with cold chicken breast. My chicken sat on the counter for around 15 minutes after seasoning to get the chill off, so that's why my chicken probably takes around 7 to 8 minutes in total to cook through. And mind you, it will still continue to cook once I remove it from the pan, and I am going to cover it tightly with aluminum foil and let it rest. So again, if you put a cold piece of chicken in a hot pan, the internal temperature will take longer to reach where it needs to be. So keep that in mind. Okay, so my chicken is setting on the side. I'm adding another tablespoon of butter. In all, I'll probably be using 4 tablespoons of butter. So once that's melted, I am ready to saute and brown my mushrooms. My mushroom of choice today is baby Bella mushrooms. You can use the mushroom of your choice. A good white button mushroom works just as well. But today I'm using 8 ounces of sliced baby Bella mushrooms. By the way, another tip to getting a nice sauteed and browned mushroom is make sure you're using a medium-high to high heat and do not add salt. If you add salt to your pan right now on top of these mushrooms, they will get soggy. The water will start releasing itself from the mushroom and they will not brown. You'll just end up with a soggy mess. Trust me. I've had plenty of mishaps with mushrooms to learn that adding salt right now would be a mistake, so just bear that in mind. I'm using a high heat and I'm probably going to add a little more butter. Mind you, the butter will also help me scrape up that delicious fond from the chicken. So once this butter's melted and my mushrooms are nice and brown, I am going to be adding onion. I basically used 1/2 of a small onion and gave it a fine dice. I weighed it just for you guys that really want weights and measurements, and I am using around 2 ounces of diced onion. And that will also go into my pan sauteing with my mushrooms. Now, if you are not a fan of onion, I will say this is optional for those that don't like onions, but a nice sauteed browned onion really goes well with a sauteed mushroom. So this is why I love to use it in this cream sauce. Be sure to check the description below this video for the ingredients and measurements used in this recipe. Okay, now I'm going to add around 3 cloves of minced garlic. Actually, I used 5 very small cloves of garlic, but I think 3 normal sized cloves work well in this recipe. So I'm just going to saute this just for a little bit. You don't want the garlic to burn, but now is a good time to add salt and pepper to taste. Okay, so everything is browned and sauteed exactly the way I like it. So now I'm going to be adding 1 tablespoon of fresh rosemary. If you do not have any of the fresh herbs that go into this recipe and you have the dried ones, use that. Just make sure you half the amount. So 1 tablespoon of fresh rosemary, and now I'm using 1 tablespoon of fresh thyme. Next, I'm using 1 tablespoon of fresh parsley. And now I'm going to be adding 1½ tablespoons of fresh chives. So now I'm just going to continue sauteing, mixing and combining all of the ingredients well. Okay, so I let that saute for around a minute, and now I'm ready to add my cream. Here I'm actually using 3 cups of half and half, but I typically like to use heavy cream. I just didn't have any today, so hopefully this turns out, which it will, I'm sure. If you don't have heavy cream or half and half, you could also use evaporated milk. So I'm giving everything a good mix, and I'm also going to be adding some pepper to taste. And I'm not going to add salt because I will be adding Parmesan cheese later, and that is salty. So once everything is combined, the cheese is melted, then I'll taste for salt again. But for right now, I'm just going to be adding pepper. Okay, so now I'm going to add 3 ounces of grated Parmesan cheese. I basically had a small 3-ounce wedge of Parmesan cheese, and that's what I'm using today. So if you want more Parmesan cheese, you can add more, but I actually find 2 to 3 ounces works well in this amount of cream sauce. So now I'm going to combine and let it simmer for 10 minutes, but if you are using heavy cream, you only want to let it simmer for 5. I actually want to sort of reduce my half and half to get thicker. So it is perfect right now. I am adding my chicken back into the sauce, and I'm just going to turn it off the heat and let it set until I'm ready to serve. Mind you, my chicken is cooked through, so be sure that when you're cooking your chicken breast, it reaches an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to be serving this on top of baby arugula, but I want to dress my arugula in a vinaigrette. So here I have 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. To that, I will be adding salt and pepper to taste. Now I'm going to be adding 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard. Now I'm going to be adding around 2 teaspoons of maple syrup. Basically, you can adjust the ratios of these ingredients to your taste. Now I'm just going to give this a shake just to combine these ingredients. Now I'm going to be adding 2 tablespoons of olive oil, or you could use the oil of your choice. And again, if you want more or less, just make sure you adjust the ratio to your preference. And now I'm going to shake it vigorously until it emulsifies and combines well. And this amount of dressing will easily dress around 3 to 5 ounces of baby arugula. I actually have around 2.5. This was half of a container, a 5-ounce container. So lunch is ready to be served. Basically, I am going to scoop up a piece of chicken breast with this delicious mushroom, herb, and garlic cream sauce. The brightness of that vinaigrette and the freshness of the baby arugula and the creamy richness of the sauce go perfect together. I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.